Gaming is weird. Gaming is fun.
What? Bro, I just made this shit like hella expensive. This is ridiculous. Wait, what the fuck? Wither? My fuck? What? Bro, I just changed this shit.
Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow.
But most importantly, gaming is an art form. It's a medium where there is no right or wrong answer, objectively, except when we are talking about EA. They did it again, lads! FIFA 21, let's fucking go!
By labeling a game FIFA 21, you're saying this is the next version of FIFA. You're saying it's a new game, a different game, but the core of those games are all literally identical. Not even like a half-step upgrade from last year's, literally the exact same copied and pasted game.
Some things that may sound fun on paper don't guarantee that they will be fun in practice. The reverse applies as well. But yet again, it is all about experimentation in art. Either if you want to paint the Mona Lisa
Da Vinci?
within 12 years of hard labor and finesse, or taping a banana to a wall so that people can pay you millions of dollars and you can call yourself a genius. The initiation of the experience itself is something one can only judge only when they have tried it themselves. And it was one game studio that continued their presence in the gaming industry through the thing that they were the best at: experimentation. Remedy Entertainment's history begins with its establishment on the 18th of August 1995, where the team began the development of their first game, High Speed, later redubbed Death Rally. It was at that time the company was also looking for a writer who can fit the menus of Death Rally with the text and maybe a little bit of lore during the loading screens. Sam Lake was the lucky enough student in the University of Helsinki to be recommended by a friend for the role, so he's hired, writes some shit, Death Rally released, and then suddenly BOOM! Max Payne happens on the 21st of July 2001, the hit classic about the hard-boiled New York detective seeking revenge for his dead wife and infant daughter as well. Yes, I was playing some fucked up shit when I was a kid, it's a cool classic by the way, and I loved it because it had slow motion and it fucking had style! And then the sequel happened in 2003, where it took significantly less time to develop, but it is not to say it diminished its quality. Instead, the sequel was improved in many ways because of the team's already established game mechanics, and also the story script was over 4 times bigger than the original. The sequel wasn't the commercial hit that its older brother was, which I can argue is because it is missing Sam's like beautiful face on the front cover and in the game as a whole, but still it wasn't a bad game, and it was also a warm goodbye from Remedy to their own franchise since they sold the rights of Max Payne to the monolith known as Take-Two Interactive. This marked the beginning of another ambitious project. After these 7 years of Remedy's investment in one IP, they got to strike a deal for exclusivity with Microsoft that included their latest game, one that the studio came up with after their recovery time from Max Payne's crunch period. That game was Alan Wake, an action psychological thriller inspired by Stephen King's novels and Twin Peaks. The game's depth in its level design was so ambitious that the team organized a field trip to the Pacific Northwest, from which they were able to bring back over 6,000 photographs and videos from a variety of natural settings so they can use them to craft the environments of the game. The original pitch for the game as a concept wasn't that far off in terms of story, but rather it was really different in terms of its overall design, which was even showcased during E3 2005. Remedy planned the game's location named Bright Falls to be a free-roaming sandbox-style open-world city with similarities to the Grand Theft Auto games. They even went ahead to develop a system to generate the open world with the use of biomes and other features that were based on their research on the Pacific Northwest where Bright Falls is set. Remedy wanted light and darkness to play a significant factor in the game, which was first built with a dynamic day and night cycle, which pushed the game to have a more survival twist, with the player collecting resources during the day and defend oneself during the night. But Sam Lake, as the creative director, has mentioned that this approach created numerous difficulties in establishing a story and narrative, with the thriller to explain how the set gameplay elements tie together with the occurring supernatural events. And in addition to Remedy's struggle to calm down the game's identity crisis, Microsoft as the publisher joins in and says, "Hey kids, need some help with this struggle of yours?" Just made the game's vision and schedule even more harder to grasp and keep up with. And in order to narrow down the game's scope, measures needed to be taken and the Sauna team was formed, which was assigned to brainstorm and cut out any unnecessary content for the game's final release, which included the lead developers of the project. And after viewing this information, it only makes sense how the game's pre-production phase took more than 3 years, while the full development lasted only 2 years. That is approximately 2 years. And after all these struggles that the team experienced, after these 2 months sweating in their sauna, they finally created the end product set to release on May 2010 for the Xbox 360, and with the green light of Microsoft and the help of Nitro Games for PC on February 2012. Alan Wake's premise that directly links to its gameplay is simple on paper, but really refreshing in execution. In order to establish the setting before delving into the game mechanics more, Alan Wake is about a writer who has found himself to be in a 2 years writer's block, so he decides to take a vacation with his wife Alice in the town of Bright Falls. But then, bada bing bada boom, surprise, the dog gets haunted by the dark presence and his wife gets kidnapped and captured by this presence, and in order to save her he needs to fight through the presence and its army of Taken, which are basically townsfolk who are possessed by the called Dark Presence. I think I just already said that. Dark Presence 3 times. I fucking said again, I'm gonna fucking say again. The way that you can fight the Taken is by using your flashlight and pointing it towards them in order to weaken the entity's power from them and eventually get a drop on them with your pistol, shotgun or hunting rifle, which, you know, it's really satisfying, not gonna lie. You also have other sources of light like flares, flare guns and flashbangs. The flares can be used to create kind of a safe space so that enemies don't swarm you like the dislikes on my rap songs. Ooh, 21. Oh, maybe not bad. The flare guns and the flashbangs are basically insta-kills for the smaller enemies, and almost insta-kills for the much bigger bunch of enemies. As you might have noticed, light versus dark is what holds this game's butt cheeks, and Lord knows how I was clenching my butt cheeks while playing. The simple rule of enemies are basically untouchable until you destroy the darkness that protects them works really good, really beautifully, shall we say, because it forces you to concentrate on the enemy that you're trying to kill by using your flashlight, but also you have to watch out your flanks for others that might charge you because they're not slowed down by the light, so you need to turn around and protect your ass, and you need to do it again so you can deplete another Taken from the darkness, so you can kill him, so you can turn around again and kill the other Taken that you're protecting yourself from a minute ago. This shit makes you stand on your feet, metaphorically, every time while you're playing, because the light versus darkness mechanic is like a constant repetition of windows of safety and danger, and mix this with the dark setting, atmosphere, sound design, level design, and really intense set pieces of the game, and really good dream sequences, so we'll talk about those later. No wonder the game is labeled an action psychological thriller. Even though this game is 10 years old, I think it has aged incredibly well in all aspects mentioned above, which is why this is such an immersive and butt-clenching experience. Despite what you think of horror games or other horror types of media, Alan Wake is a different breed. By that I want to say that it's a horror game, but at the same time I want to say it's a psychological action thriller, which is written as the actual subtitle of the game, of the game. Yes, it says it there. I don't think I should mention it, but because while it might be mixed with some other games of the horror genre, Alan Wake is not about to present you the thrills, but rather it literally injects you with them. You could argue that Amnesia, one of the greatest horror games of all time, does the same thing and possibly 10 times better, due to how its atmosphere and everything else about it checks out, so very nice. But the thing is, Alan Wake is way more engaging. Now, don't get me wrong, Alan Wake won't get you to shit your pants like Amnesia. Okay, on occasions it will, but at least it gives you the chance for you to be more active as a player rather than just kept in the closet like a pathetic beta male. What the fuck are damn these simp noises that I'm making, bro. I actually tell you this way, boy. You will be on constant alert for taking swarms of ravens, and even poltergeists, which are objects that are possessed by the darkness, that literally are throwing themselves at you, which, while at times can be funny looking at this, yes, Thomas the Tank Engine card zooming at you with 100 miles per hour. Speaking from personal experience, the game somehow forced me to be really feeling tense whenever I encountered these poltergeist sections. Like, just butt-clenching experience. And it's not like I get a Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare if I die from a flying car, but the whole process of struggle, which despite it leading to an eventual failure state, is really adrenaline-inducing, which is something more beyond just a stereotypical jump scare in a horror game. Why this game will give you the creeps on another more sophisticated level compared to other horror games is something I can only dream of explaining. You could argue that it is everything about the game's whole structure. Hell, possibly it is the implementation of the idea of light versus dark from the start of the game, which psychologically forces you to be even more scared of the fucking Taken and everything else. Oh, I get it now. But it also might be the emphasis of the contrast of scary and beautiful, because boy, this fucking game is beautiful, even after 10 years. The lighting effects are so, like, the biggest eye candy you could ever dream to look at. You might as well start crying because they have aged incredibly well. It is just a spectacle whenever a flare gun is fired, a flare is dropped, or a flashbang is thrown and an enemy obliterated. It is a sensory treat to look at whenever those effects happen. And don't even get me started on the level design. Despite being a linear experience like Remedy's other entries, Alan Wake feels more alive and open in its environments than ever before. This is due to the fact that it was intended to be an open world game in the first place, which was later changed during the phase of the Sauna team. If you stare at the backdrops of the game, they were actually part of the map, and this is why they're so detailed and pretty, and it also explains why you can actually drive cars in the game and why the driving actually feels good, because it was intended to be like an open world game. And not only the backdrops, but the overall design of the accessible parts of the map is really legit. Textures have been mixed in a believable way, and they also look good for a 10-year-old game, and physics objects are present everywhere. Lord knows physics is important in this game, but despite me showering this game with praise for the past couple minutes, now it is time to pick out the stuff that really bring this incredible experience down by, you know, some criteria. While you have this mixture of well-mixed game elements that create a really unique gaming experience, they tend to be interrupted throughout the course of the game with Alan Wake's bad narration.
My head pounded with a concussion. I'd never fired a gun outside a shooting range, and now I just killed someone. Or something. There were no bodies. They just disappeared. If I was dreaming, it felt real enough to make me sick. The dark forest was the last place I wanted to go.
Not so good cutscenes. Alright, cool, what do we watch here? Ooh,
especially
nice,
when I'm not prepared for it, you know? It gets to me.
Okay, leave it to romance.
I love
Tell me a story.
Lip sync, hello, what?
you. Okay.
What the fuck?
I used to have these nightmares when I was a kid. The dark really spooked me, too.
Spooked me, bro. You're a writer. Can you be more poetic? The focus of the camera getting hijacked and some inconsistencies in the mechanics. Let's start with the camera focus first. The game has a habit whenever enemies appear, a sound cue to be triggered and the camera's focus to be hijacked by the game in order for it to show the player where the enemies are, which eliminates the scare factor big time since you already know something is coming from the dark and its precise location, which kicks down the game's thriller and horror factor. I kinda get why they would do that, because it might have caused some balancing issues in terms of gameplay, but they could have just left the sound cue on or replaced it with a more subtle one whenever enemies show up. You're going to be aware of their presence, but you're going to be even more creeped out by it. Now that I've covered this, let's talk about light. You can heal yourself with light, except you don't sometimes. There are checkpoints in the game which are represented by streetlights that are lit, or you need to light up by turning on a generator, and when you get to these lights all of the enemies disappear and you're healed while your progress is saved because you have also reached the checkpoint. And from my first experience with the streetlights in this game, I was like, okay, so light does heal you. Which is true for the streetlights and flares, which are not as effective as the former, but still they obey the game's rules of light equals regen. But these are the only fucking things that heal you, because whenever you turn on a construction light or any other light, your health doesn't even regen If it does, it's probably due to the default regeneration that triggers when you are out of combat, which probably triggers when I light up a flare, so even the flares don't even fucking hear you, so basically as a checkpoint only. This is a flaw of the game that really cripples the world being on a decent level, because the idea of light hitting you is such a cool concept for a health regeneration system, but when I go to a street light safe haven, I don't see my health go up because I stepped into light. I see it go up because I stepped into a checkpoint. And also, why the fuck should enemies disappear when I am at street light and not at the construction light? Because the game decides when they are going to disappear because the checkpoint system, which can be counted in any other game. There is also the inclusion of dodging during combat with the shift key when an enemy swings his weapon really close near you, which is kind of an inconsistent way to avoid getting hit due to how the same button to dodge is the same button for running, and sometimes it will result in you getting hit. Not my fault, it's the fucking game's fault. But apart from these issues and some elements that are product of this game's time, the gameplay and level design are overall of a high standard quality in my opinion, which probably could have been more improved upon if it wasn't for the tough development cycle. Which wasn't only tough for some aspects of gameplay, but also for the narrative. To call this game's story confusing would be an understatement, to say the least. Not because of some overly complicated connected red lines, but rather because of the question of why, how, and should things be happening like that? It is so fucking confusing and that's at times laughable, the story of this game, that makes me want to question how the writer of these is the writer of this. But anyway, like I mentioned in the previous chapter, meet Alan Wake, New York's sweetheart, a best-selling writer, which I think it should be a sin. My man has it all, but he's been stuck in a writer's block for 2 years and decides to leave with his wife Alice for a vacation in a remote town named Bright Falls. But then shit hits the fan. His wife falls into Cauldron Lake from the island of Bird Lake Cabin, where they were both supposed to stay for their vacation. And then Alice is like, Alice, did they mention her name is Alice? Oh no, you dumb bitch, what happened? And he jumps in the water, but wait, now he's in his car and Alice is missing. Wait, what the fuck is happening? Maybe he was dreaming in the beginning of the game. He then realizes that he's missing a week from his memory and tries to find Alice while going through waves of Taken. And then he realizes, oh no, my wife is kidnapped by some cunt. Let me get my wife. And there is my friend and manager Barry, who is a fucking idiot, but the most charming character of the game. He goes to rescue his dry character of a wife, but then he realizes, oh no, it's not the kidnappers that kidnapped her, and he'll be like, oh shit, must have been a ghost then! And realizes it's a dark presence, and meets with these Anderson Bros keys in Dr. Emil Hartman's mental hospital, who also specializes in healing artists who are creatively stuck. Like fucking me, because he haven't uploaded so much. I mean, kind of fucking write songs, bro! The brothers, who are also retired rock stars from their band Old Gods of Asgard, tell this blank cunt of a character to get to their farmhouse to find out who to help him to retrieve the love of his life, aka Miss I Forgot Your Name, is Alice, because despite you being the motivation for the main protagonist to continue with his quest, I still find it hard to keep your name in my head because you seem so irrelevant. Alan and your boy Barry manage to get to the farm after slaying more Taken, and they get the message, find the lady of the night, who is Cynthia Weaver, and she basically knows how stuff works in Bright Falls. But before you find her, these two lads get drunk. Alan, he has a dream in which he sees himself being forced by the Dark Presence to write a story in which the Dark Presence will be able to thrive around the town of Bright Falls, and you know, because yeah, I guess he just wants to go and destroy the I don't fucking know horror stuff shit. Which means that everything that has been happening in the game until now, or maybe like the future as well, was because Alan wrote it, and it also explains the manuscript pages that can be found around the levels that predict what event is going to happen next. But before Alan finishes the full story in a bad way, he manages to remain conscious for some time and writes Thomas into his story, who is going to help him escape from the dark place. Which he does. Alan runs away, he has a little car crash, and then he wakes up, haha, from his dream, realizing what actually happened during these 2 weeks that he was missing in his memory. And eventually you find Weaver, Cynthia Weaver, that is, the Lady of Light, blah blah blah. You find out how some stuff do be like, and it's not only by learning it from her, but from the game's wiki fandom page as well, because this game's got got me all times confused, and these things do go like that. In the 1970s, a writer under the name of Thomas Zane is living on Bird Lake Cabin Island of Cauldron Lake, the same place that Alan and Alice went to at the beginning of the game. Zane was living with his wife Barbara Jagger, and they do be indeed having a good time as a couple until Barbara decides to go for a swim and drowns herself in the lake under mysterious circumstances. Ooh, spooky. After Barbara's death, Dr. Hartman himself convinced Zane to write back his wife to life using the supernatural powers of the lake that turn fiction into reality. Well, the desperate husband does this with success, but there is one small little problem. The dark presence came back, possessing Barbara's body. When he finds out this, he decides to cut out her heart to only find darkness inside. Wait. What? What follows after this is him wanting to write himself, the island, and everything else that caused this event out of existence, which explains the 1970s eruption of the Cauldron Lake volcano and the disappearance of the island, which Alan and his wife saw because the dark presence allowed them to. But what Zane also included in his final writings is that any of his belongings left in a shoebox would remain in the real world, and also he writes the character of Alan Wake, who would one day come to Cauldron Lake and defeat the dark presence using the clicker, which is a light switch with magical powers. The clicker was given to Alan by his mom because he was having a fear of the dark as a child, and this clicker could defeat monsters from the dark. And Cynthia Weaver is the keeper of this light switch, aka the clicker, in the mentioned shoebox of Zane. And Alan of course takes the switch from Cynthia, she gives it to him, jumps into the lake where the dark place and the dark presence is, and kills the possessed version of Barbara Jagger, aka the dark presence, and his wife is released from the lake. But Alan remains in the dark place in order to finish the story that he started. And boom, the ending, roll credits, fucking 10 out of 10, IGN would play again. Except fucking no.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
After this long summary of the story, I bet you got the same questions as me, which ultimately show how this plot has more holes than a block of cheese. Why does the dark presence need to be awakened by someone writing a whole novel about it? Why can't it just be a few words like the dark presence took over Bright Falls or some shit, or the world, and whatever the fuck? If Zane was so powerful to write himself and add it out of existence and write Alan Wake into the real world, wait the clicker, why wasn't he able to just write the fucking dark presence itself out of existence? Why was the clicker in the shoebox of Zane if it was Alan's mom and if it was Alan's and his mom gave it to him? Like, why did Alan's mom suddenly give it to Zane? It doesn't make sense. Almost missed the beat. Shawty, can you feel the heat? You were like a melody, but became a tragedy. If Alan was able to escape the dark place the first time with the help of Zane, why the fuck won't he write down his escape again with a few words, not the whole novel? I think I need a minute. And also the poor acting of the characters, writing and presentation during the cutscenes and gameplay just doesn't help with generating a positive reaction from me, but rather shoots the game's narrative in the foot by making it something to be laughed at. This is the reason why I couldn't believe that Sam Lake actually wrote this story, because Max Payne 1 and 2 can be deemed as iconic pillars of video game story and storytelling. Keyword. The first Max Payne might not be as complicated as the fall of Max Payne, but at least it has memorable, polished characters and great presentation. And the highlight that the Max Payne had was his narration. This guy was so well written by Sam and voiced by the silky smooth, manly voice of James McCaffrey. He might be, like, fucking Max Payne might be talking about how shitty his morning was, because he was running late for work, but he really needs to take a shit, but he doesn't, and goes ahead and shit himself in the bus, and you still listen, because it's Max Payne. And if you put Max Payne and Alan Wake next to each other, you see an irony starting to form. Because Max is a hard-boiled cop that just shoots junkies and gangsters because they killed his wife. Oh my god, they killed my wife. And Alan Wake is just a writer. But despite Max being just a stupid cop, I mean, not really stupid, but maybe in the third game, which sadly didn't, it's rare, but it's good though, but you should check it out. He speaks better than Alan, and when it's needed. Let me give you an example.
Punchinello was a pushover. The moment I stepped into the room, he folded like a deuce before a royal flush.
No, wait. I was just doing what I was told. I couldn't refuse. She's someone high up. Government, maybe. I don't know.
He was trying to buy more sand for his hourglass. I wasn't selling any.
Every day, I imagine a future where I can be with you.
Oh, thank God, Sheriff.
Sheriff Sarah Breaker, you are...
I'm Alan Wake, but listen. I was in a car crash. My wife, Alice, she's missing.
Calm down, Mr. Wake.
We were staying in a cabin on the island, on Cauldron Lake.
There's no island on Cauldron Lake, not since the big eruption in the 70s.
Please, I can take you there, okay?
You look like you've taken a pretty bad knock to the head. Are you okay?
Listen.
We'll figure this out. Please get in the car. We'll swing by the lake and then we'll go to the station, okay? Mr. Wake, have you seen Stucky, the guy who owns this place?
I realized I couldn't tell her what had happened in the forest. She wouldn't have believed me. And then she wouldn't have helped me with Alice.
If I don't know how to love you, I'll leave you be.
Like, it don't make sense why this is happening, since Alan should be the more poetic type, but because he's a fucking writer. But nah, the lights turn off and he be like, the lights were so dark, oh, I felt the darkness creeping in. Really creative, Mr. Wake, really creative. And to make matters worse are the manuscript pages that are tossed around the map, which I don't have a problem with the reason for being there, like, necessarily. Basically, the pages predict what is going to happen in the game, because this is what Alan wrote and they are laid around the world in order to help Alan survive. No issue with that, for the reason of the story. But there is an issue with storytelling, when they are useless as fuck, because they're written by Alan, aka 7th grader, in a class for creative writing, and they just say, yeah, enemy around corner, in a really stupid narration, so there is no point in even picking them up and reading them. I meant Alan reading them, as if you didn't have enough, you didn't spend enough time listening to him do it over and over and over and over again in fucking cutscenes and fucking gameplay when I don't want, shut the fuck up. The only relief of presentation and writing that they got from this game is when they heard the magical voice of Jace McCaffrey, who actually plays Thomas Zane in this game, so... Obviously, it's so fucking good to hear your voice, man. Oh, and also the game is episodic, and before the start of every episode there is bad narration again. You don't get the presentation, Samle! Now, with all of this, you might say that I really hate the characters as a whole, but actually I kinda love them for the wrong reasons, because the presentation gets to the point it's so disappointing it's good. Because I'm disappointed in you, Mr. Lake. Like, the cutscenes are so hilarious because they are not even lip-synced properly, and the voice acting be like, damn, it Barry, they kill her! But at the same time, there is a hidden charm in this presentation, kinda like Sam's acting faces in Max Payne 1. But all these bad stuff in terms of narration and presentation were probably caused by the hectic development cycle of the game, which leads us to the reason why I have decided to talk about the special DLC episodes that come after you finish episode 6 of the game, where we are presented with what actually happens with Alan while he's in the dark place. Which I think were probably one of my favorite parts of the game, because all these things that they talk about were kinda absent in these like 2 episodes. Narration was okay, nothing out of the extraordinary, but I didn't actually mind when Alan was speaking. I could hear James McCaffrey more, which is fucking good, A+ points for this, boys. There was also an expansion on the gameplay element, which included focusing your flashlight on words that will eventually drop items or alter the level in your favor, or reveal some memories of Alan, which I thought was really cool. And also the dark place in which Alan Wake was actually dreaming was just insane in terms of his dreamlikeness. In some stages of the episodes that Remedy is known for, like in the dream sequences of Max Payne, these guys just know how to make dream sequences in video games and make you convinced in them. It's just insane. And also I felt like I was probably understanding why some plot holes were present and what explanation they entailed. And the 180 turn was so sharp I was clapping from excitement after the final cutscene that concluded the epilogue.
It wouldn't take much for my thoughts to stray again. It was too easy to get lost in the dark place. Before, I was ready to curl up and die, let myself slip away. But here I was, the yet unwritten future waiting to unfold before me. A sequel to Departure. My name is Alan Wake, and I'm a writer.
Now that I have expressed my big opinions about the game, I think I should neatly tie them together. Alan Wake is a good game. It has its high points and its low points, which, to at least not my surprise, makes sense for this to be a cult classic, and not just a classic. Its weakest points, caused by an ambitious vision, while obstructing, can also be charming and possibly forgiven because the development team genuinely aimed to create a memorable experience, and I think in many ways they managed to achieve it. And even 10 years later, they still stick by this vision. It doesn't matter if Alan Wake wasn't the success that the studio was hoping for, they will not allow this IP to die. They will do whatever it takes, even if it means to create not a lake, but an ocean. Aha! Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Just T Productions 2040p edition. And thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate it. It busted my ass out to do it. And you might say now, well, Just T Productions, why make these long ass videos when no one watches them, you fucking bitch? Well, because it's my passion, boys, and and for those who stick around, even if you want, if you're like 2 people, I'm just, I just like, doing, video game analysis shit, so, yes, if you haven't noticed that you haven't uploaded, like, in a while, and we'll talk about that, like, right now. First, let me just shout out a couple of people, but they do with the video, kinda nothing, but kinda something, kinda a lot, like, so some of them, okay, so, thanks to, to Raycevick, who let me steal his format. You see, he was, like, this guy's a really big inspiration of mine, like, the reason why I started, like, doing this, like, the reviews in the first place, and maybe, like, my gaming channel as a whole. And to Stoofer, who is a graphic designer, who, does shit, really passionate guy, and he also, like, kinda, like, not contact, but, like, allowed me to ask this Raycevick this question, if, like, I'm allowed to use his like to doom, like, conclusion, like, format, and whatever the fuck you call it. Yeah, I don't know, it's just like the 10 years later format. It's not mine, but it's good. And also I wanna really like drop a massive fucking shout out to ASARE. He's my producer that, like, produced the songs, like, they produced, and some people disliked one person. I don't know who we are, but I'm gonna come to your house, I'm gonna murder you. I'm just kidding. We all have to be critical ourselves. But yeah, like, with these songs, I just want to touch this topic. I was, just having fun, being experimental in the content. Maybe some of you are disappointed, but it's, like, I do shit, bro. I don't know, but like, he was really cooperative. He's a really cool guy. Like, he has a lot of talent. So make sure, like, to check out his PS beats if you're interested in, like, fucking purchasing any beats, or want to cooperate with this guy, talented little rap artist. There we go. Like me. Nah, just kidding. You can just go and check him out. He does bangers. Not gonna lie. I don't know how he's not, like, over the top 10 the billboards over Joji. I seriously don't know. Over all these other people. I'm just kidding. No, like, go ahead to check these people out. I mean, I don't have a big audience, so this shot is kind of cringe, I guess. I don't fucking know, but like, these people are cool. I think you should go check them out, and I hope you yet again. I don't know if I'm looking to the camera. I'm trying to. I hope you enjoyed the video. It means a lot to me, and I hope you like, you are having a good Spooktober, and. Yes, I will not stop doing this. Doesn't matter how many subscribers you have, but please share this video with your friends. Please, I beg you. I need the. Come on, I need the numbers. But it doesn't matter. Stay safe, boys and girls. This was me, Just T Productions, aka Just Stop Drake, aka fucking virgin, 18-year-old virgin. It's insane. Yeah, and see you next time. I don't know what to fucking do next time. You just pray it's not the new music, okay? You just pray about this.